All right, we are talking about mutations today. So, when you think of the word mutations, what is one thing that you know about them? So, kind of think about that for just a second. All right, so the definition of mutations, these are changes in DNA coding, which can sometimes lead to a change in the DNA instructions. So if you think about baking, and I've got a picture of some yummy, delicious blueberry muffins down there, if we change up one of the ingredients in that, whether we substitute it with something else or whether we remove it completely, what could potentially happen is that our muffins change a little bit as well. So maybe we switch out our milk from 2% to whole milk. Maybe that doesn't make a huge change, but it's still a mutation. Or if we completely eliminate the blueberries, now they're no longer a blueberry muffin. They are completely different. So mutations are changes in DNA coding, which sometimes lead to the change in DNA instructions. So let's look at some examples of a mutation. The first one, we can see that we've got a sequence of DNA. So it goes TAACTG. Our point mutation is going to change one of those bases. So if we look at the mutated DNA, we can see that it goes TAACC. And we can see that this base right here, the C, is now what replaces that T base. So mutations can be random, or they can actually be caused by exposure to harmful chemicals or radiation. So anything in the environment that can cause a mutation is called a mutagen. So when we talk about mutagens, we're going to talk about a few different things that can cause these mutations, whether it be radiation, like the sun, whether it be radiation from X-rays, all right, chemicals, so cigarette smoke. When we talk about preservatives, some of those can be mutagens as well. A huge news article just came out. There's a class action lawsuit against a lot of different skincare companies like CeraVe and Neutrogena because their products contain benzene, which is found in benzoyl peroxide. And this is actually a carcinogen. So it is actually a mutagen. It can cause these mutations to your DNA. So they can actually cause some issues with your skin. So something to kind of think about when you are looking at the ingredients on what you are putting on your face or what you are putting in your body. The only mutations that can be passed down, though, from parent to offspring, found in either the egg in females or the sperm in males, happen in the gametes. So gametes are sex cells. Okay, this is what the true term is for an egg or a sperm. These are the only mutations that can be passed on to offspring. So if your let's say your mom or your dad has something like skin cancer. Okay, skin cancer is a mutation found in a body cell, and that body cell DNA is not going to be passed down to the offspring. So the only mutations that can be passed down to offspring are ones found in the sperm or in the egg cells. All right, so let's look at this one. I do like to talk about skin cancer since skin cancer is a mutation. And I've got two diagrams right here. So just a few to kind of look at skin cancer risk factors. Now, every single person on Earth is at risk for skin cancer as we are exposed to UV radiation from the sun, okay? Does not matter the amount of melanin in your body, you still have a risk of having that radiation hit your body and hit your skin. So the only way that you're completely safe from skin cancer from UV radiation is if you never, ever, ever saw the sun. Okay. Now, there are a few risk factors that make you a little more susceptible to skin cancers. So if you have light colored eyes, blonde or red hair, if you're fair skinned, meaning that you get sunburned really easily, you have a family history of skin cancer, maybe your family members have you're just more susceptible to being affected by that UV radiation. If you use tanning beds or you lay outside and tan, you have a higher risk of skin cancer, as well as working outside in the sun without proper sun protection. Okay, so I also like to show this diagram here to kind of show you what normal I guess, moles and freckles and stuff like that kind of look like, versus one of the most aggressive forms of skin cancer, which is melanoma. So, melanoma, we can see it looks a little different. We got some asymmetrical edges, different colors to them. Your freckles are changing in size and shape or color over time. So, this is why it's so important that if you do notice these things, to go and talk to a dermatologist or your doctor and kind of see what's going on. All right, just reiterating, only thing that can be passed down from parent to offspring would be mutations found in the egg and the sperm cells, the gametes. All right, so let's talk about this first mutation. This is the one that I gave you an example of on like the second slide. So a point mutation is when a base is switched out or substituted with another base. So we call this a point mutation or a substitution mutation. So if we look at our original RNA strand, we've got a UUA. Now, if we are switching out one letter on that, like this one, we switched out the first U with a C, or like the second one, we switched out the first U with a G, or we switched out this last one with that middle U with an A. These are all point mutations. We changed one letter, one base in that particular sequence. Okay, so let's take a look at this. We've got insertion, deletion, and substitution mutations. Okay, so here's our substitution mutations. We see that we are changing out one of the bases. The next one we're going to talk about is insertion and deletion. So we're either adding in an extra base or we are deleting one. This is called a frame shift mutation, and it is exactly what it sounds like. If we remove or add in a base, it's going to shift how we count in threes, our codons. It's going to shift them out. And what's going to happen is it's going to end up potentially coding for a different amino acid, which of course is going to change your traits. It's going to change your genetics. All right, so frame shift mutation is a deletion or addition or insertion of one or more bases that changes how you read a message. All right, so if we look at the sentence, the dog bit the cat, if we delete the letter G from the original sentence and notice that all of these words are sets of three, like a codon, then all of a sudden we have to shift everything back one because that G's gone. So then we have to bump that B back to the slot where the G was. And now the sentence is completely illegible after the first word. If we insert the letter A into the sequence, then we do, once again, change the entire sentence itself. So we inserted our letter A here, all right, and now this changes it. So we've got our set of three, and we added in three, or we added in our A, so then we've got 3, 3, and 3 again, all right? So if we add in a letter, it does the same thing. It's starting to change up our sequence. A deletion, like when we got rid of the letter G in that sentence, is when a base is deleted. And in addition, like when we added in the letter A to that sentence, is when a base is inserted. So if you change the DNA or RNA code, it could change the protein and it could change the trait. All right, so let's talk about it. Are mutations good or bad? Yes. And I know it's always one of those things where it's like, oh, is this a yes or no question? Well, it's not really a yes or no question, but the answer is yes. Okay. So what does that mean? Mutations can be good, bad, or they could have no effect whatsoever. And this is all basically a crapshoot. When we're looking at that amino acid chart, depending on which letter is replaced, it could code for the same amino acid and then nothing changes. However, what also could happen is we could change it and then all of a sudden we have, this entirely different amino acid sequence and all of these different genes that are a result of that particular mutation. All right, so let's talk about some good mutations. A good mutation would be these two lovely little birds right here. This one with the short beak is not able to reach the worm, but the one that has a mutated longer beak is able to get the worm and able to eat from a different food source. I'll move my frame right here real quick so we can look down here. All right, another mutation that's good for not us, but something else, is that bacteria actually become resistant to drugs. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get into evolution. We talk about bacterial resistance. All right, but bacteria can become resistant to antibiotics. All right, and basically, the ones that are able to survive will survive. When we're talking about bad mutations, we're looking at things like sickle cell anemia. Okay, so this is caused by a point mutation. And basically, what happens is that point mutation causes people to go from having these completely circular red blood cells to these kind of half shaped sickle red blood cells. And they can't carry as much oxygen. Another bad mutation is breast cancer. Okay, so a small percentage of people, about 1 in 400, actually carry the mutated BRCA gene. So, all in all, mutations, they could be good, they could be bad, they could be indifferent.